Hey yo, what's up guys? We are gonna continue with the entire history of Spider-Man. Since you all liked it, I was like, why not? Let's bring it back. So this is part 2. If you guys are gonna enjoy this reaction, make sure you subscribe, like, comment. Make sure to turn on that notification bell so you guys are updated for when I upload a new video. And guys, let's get into it.
And became very jealous of her boyfriend at the time.
Okay.
After her death, he was so heartbroken and used his scientific skills to clone her back from the dead. He then dressed up in a Grinch costume and psychologically tortured Spider-Man with the clone
Hold on, psychologically tortured
of his dead girlfriend. And if that wasn't enough, and this next bit's actually a pretty genius plan, he creates a clone of Spider-Man with all of his memories and personality so that, from the clone's perspective, he is Spider-Man. He then kidnaps the real Spider-Man and switches them about so they have no idea who the clone is. Jackal blows
That's actually smart. Like, who thought about that? Like,
himself up. He's a bitch, who cares? But what matters is that one of the Spider-Men dies with him. So while it's back to normal, there's only one Peter Parker, he's not actually sure if he's the real Peter, which
hold on. My question is if he doesn't think he's the real Peter Parker, what makes him think that he should be switching spots with Peter Parker? If you know what I'm saying.
Sends him into an existential crisis, realizing that she's not actually Gwen Stacy. The clone of Gwen leaves New York to become her own person.
She's not.
I'm sure these clones will never be a problem in the future. Meanwhile, Jameson goes to create yet another Spider Slayer. However, this time Spencer
How many Spider Slayers is he gonna create?
Smythe is like, fuck your Spider Slayers, and tries to kill Jameson, only to end up dying himself. Aunt May almost marries Dr. Octopus. I can't remember why, and I don't care.
Facts.
Also, Curt Connors has beef with this guy called Stegron, who's basically the lizard, but he turned himself into a dinosaur. Kurt's son.
Hold on. How is he able to turn himself a dinosaur since he turned himself a lizard? Like, how does
Billy
it work?
is kidnapped, and the lizard goes toe-to-toe with Stegron, who's now got an army of dinosaurs, and Spider-Man's caught in the middle of it. Stegron falls into a river and dies, and Kurt is reunited with his family. From this point on, Kurt became Spider-Man's solution to everything. Hey, someone put a bomb on us. Help. The Moonstones. Something to do with the moon? While the whole clone situation puts some strain on Peter and MJ's relationship, they eventually heal things and Peter ends up proposing to her. To which she says,
proposing?
No. She friend-zones him and moves to Florida. This just so happens to take place in the same issue as the Big Wheel. Sure, the majority of Peter's college friends are either dead, clinically insane, or in a different state, but at least it's time for him to graduate. Except he's actually denied graduation because he missed one gym class by accident.
How can he miss one gym class by accident? What?
Peter starts dating the Black Cat, which is great because now he doesn't have to hide his identity or worry about her getting hurt. Harry gets amnesia and is cured of his insanity, so it's like the whole thing never happened.
Hold on, I thought Peter was dating Gwen Stacy. How has he moved to the Black Cat?
Spider-Man's sent to fucking space and fights one of the most powerful beings in the multiverse. Bit of a step up, but during his cosmic adventure he gains a cool new black costume, which can transform into whatever he wants with a single thought, making outfit changes so much easier. Upon realizing that Black Cat only cares about the spider and not the man, their relationship falls through, just in time for Mary Jane returning home from Florida. There was probably another
So Mary Jane returned from Florida.
Spider Slayer in there, built by Smythe's son. Once you read like 800 issues in a week, they all start to blend together. It's here we reach a crucial point in Peter and MJ's relationship, in which MJ has had enough of hiding the truth and reveals that she's known Peter's secret all along. The constant knowledge of Peter risking his life has gotten too much for her, which is why she turned Peter down and left New York. Realizing that things are
She left New York just because she turned Peter down.
Only going to get better if they're honest with each other. The two promise to be there for each other and figure out how their relationship is going to work. Peter gets a little bit freaked out when his new costume starts swinging him around New York while he's asleep, and so he goes to the Fantastic Four to get it checked out.
Yeah, you might need to go and get that checked out urgently now, because if it's swinging around when you're asleep, that's concerning.
Upon learning that it's actually alive, Peter has them remove it and put it in a tube. It's not that easy though, as the suit soon escapes and forces itself back onto Peter. Struggling to get it off, Peter discovers its main weakness, as the sound of a church bell traumatizes the symbiote, seemingly killing it for good. Despite this, Peter would still wear a cloth version of the black
cloth?
suit, because Black Cat thought it was hot. Did someone say Spider Slayer? With Smythe dead, Jameson hires Dr. Marla Madison to build
Yeah, this is amazing.
another one, but the two
is
actually fall
amazing.
in love and eventually get married. As a wedding gift, Spider-Man makes
This
out with
is
him.
amazing.
What the fuck, Spider-Man? Blaming Jameson for what happened to him, the Scorpion kidnaps Marla in an attempt at revenge, but his
Okay.
plan is short-lived and he's stopped by Spider-Man. Spider-Man also fights alongside the mercenary Silver Sable, taking down such evil villains as the Black Fox,
Who's Silver Sable?
the Jack-O-Lantern, and the US government.
Okay.
As Peter and MJ grow closer and closer, Peter realises that this is the person who he wants to spend the rest of his life with. And after a
Okay.
massive kick in the balls of a cliffhanger, we
Hey,
get to the next
yo.
issue, where MJ says, yes! Okay, she initially
That's who MJ is.
turns him down, yet again, but we soon learn that she's just afraid of marriage because of how her parents turned out. Everyone in her family ran out on her and tried to escape their
okay.
responsibilities,
That's-
so it's almost
That's understandable there. If her parents ran out on her.
in her nature to run away from big decisions like this.
Yeah.
But after learning that it's not a bad thing to commit to someone you love, MJ accepts Peter's proposal. And so
Okay.
it's time for Spider-Man to get married. Wedding guests
Spider-Man is getting married.
include Aunt May, Flash, Harry, Jameson,
All of
Marla,
them.
Robbie Robertson of the Daily Bugle, MJ Santana, and Betty. No, Ned. Ned died. Peter and MJ
How did Ned die?
move into an apartment together as newlywed husband and wife. This
Okay.
is something I love about the Spider-Man comics from, well, before 2007. For the
Okay.
most part, they let Peter grow, not just physically from a teenager to an adult, but as a person as well. Sure, he still has his flaws, as any character should, but you can see him become more mature. You can see how he's
yeah.
learned and improved from his years of
Yeah, definitely.
being a superhero. Spider-Man's always been about relatability, and sure, him having his life out of order or being really unlucky is part of it. But it's
Yep.
his growth that's the most relatable aspect for me. Like all of us, Peter gets
I guess
anxious
so.
and uncertain about each new chapter of his life, but he still accepts the change and embraces it. Whether it's going to college, having to find a whole new group of friends, graduation, choosing the person you're going to spend the rest of your life with,
See, that's difficult because choosing the person that you want to spend the rest of your life is it's kind of impossible because you're gonna be, I guess, not husband it. You're gonna be not choosing the right person for you, and then you're gonna be like, oh, I don't like that person, so you want to choose a different person, basically.
married life, parenthood,
I don't think that makes
accepting
sense.
and moving
Yeah.
on from the death of a loved one. If there's one thing I hope this video illustrates, it's that change is key to Spider-Man. Shortly after their honeymoon,
So change is key after Spider-Man.
Peter and MJ are tormented by Kraven the Hunter, who, after a lifetime of being defeated and humiliated by
Okay.
Spider-Man, hatches a plan to kill him and redeem his honor as a hunter.
Hold on, this is too loud. Wait. a
In the
minute.
past,
Okay, there we go.
Kraven would use
It's too
spears,
loud. Sorry.
darts, all sorts
I
of
can hear
traditional
myself.
hunting equipment. But what have they done for him lately? So Kraven abandons his usual set of tools in favour of a gun, which he uses to just straight up fucking murder Spider-Man. Kraven
Yeah,
buries
I guess
Spider-Man's
so.
body himself, puts on a Spider-Man costume, and stands over his grave in what is possibly
What?
one of the most coldest villain moments of all time. But he doesn't just stop there. He then
Yeah.
goes around doing Spider-Man's job for him, going so
Definitely.
far as to kill people, thus ruining Spider-Man's reputation. The only
So, they tried to ruin Spider-Man's reputation by standing on his grave. That's crazy.
person he doesn't fool is Mary Jane, who instantly sees through Kraven's disguise.
Okay.
After a series of visual metaphors which definitely scarred any kids reading it at the time, Peter uses his indomitable will and love for MJ to dig the
Okay.
way out of his own grave. He goes to confront Kraven, but Kraven refuses to fight back.
Okay.
Sure, Spider-Man may still be alive, but it doesn't matter. He proved
It doesn't matter, you're right.
himself superior and made
Yep.
his point that he was worthy of the title Kraven the Hunter and his honor was
Oh, that's
restored.
how-
He
that's
leaves a
how he's
confession for the
able.
police, clearing Spider-Man's name, and
Okay.
with that, Kraven shoots himself in the head.
That's a little bit dramatic. Why did he have to do that?
Both this story and the Death of Jean DeWolf arc marked a darker time for Spider-Man.
Okay.
With brutal deaths and disturbing imagery, Spider-Man comics were at their most mature. But they weren't
Okay.
just dark and edgy for the sake of it. They were grounded in character and the themes of morality, revenge, flaws in the system, all of which produced some of the most memorable Spider-Man stories to date. Shortly after, we reach Amazing Spider-Man issue 300, featuring the first
There's a 300.
appearance of Venom. Already traumatized by her run-in with Kraven, MJ comes home to find this. No matter the amount of life-threatening situations she's been in, MJ has always remained strong in the face of danger.
But she's not able to handle that.
So Peter is determined to find out what could have possibly made her feel so helpless. Upon confronting this strange new creature, we get a look at his tragic backstory. Eddie Brock was just a simple reporter for the Daily Globe, one of the Daily Bugle's competitors. After Spider-Man exposed his fraudulent journalism, Eddie's career was made into a laughingstock.
So his career was made into a laughingstock.
And with his life completely ruined, he had no other option but just to off himself. Raised as a Catholic, however, Eddie believed suicide to be a mortal sin, and so before he took his own life, he went to a church to pray for forgiveness, the same church in which Spider-Man was fighting the symbiote. It latched onto Eddie, feeding off his humiliation and desire for revenge, transforming him into Venom. And in another contender for the coldest villain moments of all time, Venom weds Spider-Man to that same church bell, so that when midnight strikes and the bell starts to ring...
Why did he have to follow Spider-Man?
Spider-Man will be squished into tiny pieces, thus exorcising him. Spider-Man breaks free through the power of bullshit and defeats Venom by throwing him into the ground. He takes Eddie to the Fantastic Four, who put him in a tube and ship him off to some gulag. With MJ still traumatized by Venom, Peter ditches his black costume in favour of his classic red and blue. Meanwhile, Aunt May worries that she's been getting in the way of her nephew's marriage and distances herself from everyone. MJ reassures her that they do still need her and still want her as part of their lives, bringing them closer than ever. May also finds a new partner by the name of Nathan. He's a bit of a knob, but the two have some decent chemistry and he's vital for May to move on from her dead husband, and he's dead. Also, Black Cat finds out that Peter's now married to MJ and starts dating Flash just to mess with him. Alright, it's the fucking 90s. A lot of people really don't like this era because of all the clones and, you know, Marvel and DC were just trying to outdo each other in terms of who could make the most weirdest, most edgiest shit imaginable. Like Kane, a rejected clone of Spider-Man who uses his spider powers to stick his hand to people's faces and rip them off. You also have Cletus...
That's actually cool. He sticks his hand into people's faces and rip them off. That sounds very...
Cassidy, a serial killer who shares a cell with Eddie Brock. When the Venom symbiote has a baby, it latches onto Cletus and he becomes the superpowered mass murderer known as Carnage. After Harry had got his amnesia, things were working out for him. He married Liz from Peter's high school, the two had a son called Normie, you know, he's having a gay old time. That is until the X-Men do some bullshit that messes with everyone's heads, and now all of Harry's goblin memories are restored. And of course you'd expect him to go goblin mode on everyone and Spider-Man would have to stop him. But no. It's actually a pleasant surprise when Harry doesn't instantly turn evil and instead goes round trying to be a superhero.
So he doesn't turn evil, but he goes round being a superhero. Like, if you think about it, that's actually cool because not many people could do that.
Fortunately, it doesn't last long, as Harry is repeatedly haunted by visions of his dead father, and eventually the Green Goblin persona takes over. Once again determined to avenge his father, the Goblin confronts Peter and tries to blow him up. During the fights, Harry's real personality starts to fight the Goblin, and he keeps switching between the two personas. Peter tries to get Harry to fight it, but it's no use. After a fierce battle, Peter surrenders himself to the Goblin, saying that the only way this ends is if one of them dies. Even though he has every advantage, the Goblin can't bring himself to kill Peter, proving that Harry's still in there and still fighting to do the right thing. The Goblin flees the scene and spends the next 12 issues swimming in Goblin juice, making himself stronger,
in Goblin juice,
crazier, and diluting what's left of Harry's personality. But while this special juice does enhance him, it's also killing him from the inside. He then starts stalking Peter, following him in the street or at the Daily Bugle, threatening to give up his identity. He even goes so far as to bring Mary Jane to the same place that Gwen died, just as another way of fucking with him. Peter takes the bait and confronts him, still hopeful that his old friend can be redeemed. The Goblin lures Peter to a building rigged with explosives, and drugs Peter so that he can barely move. It's clear to him that their rivalry will go on forever, so the Goblin plans for both of them to die in the explosion. That way he'll have avenged his father's death, while also ending his own mental suffering. Peter is fucked and can do nothing but lie there
Yeah, definitely.
and wait to be blown up. However, the day is saved by MJ, who has brought Harry's son with her in an attempt to break through to him. Upon realizing that his son is about to be turned to ash, Harry's personality snaps back. He instantly gets MJ and Normie to safety, realizes he forgot about Peter, and saves him as well. But the goblin formula has taken too much of a toll on his body, and Harry collapses.
So you go, I was trying to think to that.
Harry thanks Peter for believing in him, and lets him know that no matter what happened between them, he still considers him his best friend. He holds Peter's hand and smiles, before succumbing to his injuries and dying. As Peter grieves his friend's death, the issue ends with a picture of Peter and Harry in their college days. A simpler, happier time before any of this happened. Alright, it's time for the Clone Saga. Now this event was stretched over several years and has a fuck ton of characters.
Several years.
So it was a nightmare to navigate. For this video, I did want to actually read everything myself and not just rely on the wiki, but my god, it helped. If the story just took place in one comic and was really, really long, then sure, that's fine. But it took place back and forth between the 4 concurrent Spider-Man series at the time, plus the 30-something other series that the story was planted in between. And you know what? I didn't actually have to read like half of these. Most of them have fuck all to do with the main story, but that's what Wikipedia told me. Maybe the teachers were
maybe, yeah, they're kind of
right about Wikipedia all along. The actual main story is pretty simple if you remove like half the stuff they threw in there. Remember that clone of Spider-Man that the Jackal used to fuck with him? Turns out he didn't die, and has actually been living in secret under the name of Ben Reilly. After doing a fancy DNA test, it's revealed that our Peter, the one we've been following for the past 30 odd years, is in fact the clone, and that Ben is actually the original Peter Parker from those very first issues. Also, MJ is pregnant. Another existential crisis ensues.
MJ is pregnant?
Know what? This is actually kind of good news. Now that there's another Spider-Man, Peter can now focus more on his family and dedicate most of his time to be a dad. And so Peter retires from being a superhero and lets Ben take his place as the new Spider-Man. Some stuff happens. Venom, clonage, maximum clonage. Oh shit. They got Speedball in this? And then at the end, it's revealed that Norman Osborn is alive, and he's been pulling the strings this whole time. Turns out Norman faked the DNA test, because why not? Fuck you. And Peter is actually the original. This is proven when, during a final confrontation with Osborn, Ben sacrifices himself to save Peter, and his body turns to ash. The Clone Saga then ends on a very tragic note. Peter and MJ's child is stillborn, which is probably one of the most traumatic experiences any couple can have.
Yeah, definitely.
Why add this to the list of tragedies they faced? Well, the story is that Marvel thought that Peter having a child would age him up too much, and the change would be too much for the readers, without realising that's the whole fucking point. And this comes right after Aunt May gives them a speech about how much of a responsibility it is to raise a child. Responsibility? Spider-Man? The Clone Saga may have been a controversial, convoluted mess, but in the midst of all the chaos, we got Amazing Spider-Man 400, which is just an absolutely beautiful issue and marked one of the biggest changes in Peter Parker's life. Aunt May's been on the cusp of death for the past 30 years, and having got
30 years.
Got another illness, it's clear she's not going to last much longer. She's advised to stay in bed and rest, but May wants to make the most of the time she has left with Peter, and they visit the top of the Empire State Building. Much to Peter's surprise, May reveals that she's known he was Spider-Man for a very long time, and says that Uncle Ben would have been proud of him. Now weaker than ever, Peter takes May home to rest. When Peter tries to call the doctor, May refuses. She knows that she's way past her time, but she just held on that little bit longer so she could say her goodbye to Peter. While she knows he won't take it well, she reassures him that she's had a good, long life, and that she couldn't be prouder of the kind, decent soul that Peter has always been. MJ and Aunt Anna arrive to find a devastated Peter grieving over May's body, and they break down into tears together. Aunt May is buried next to Uncle Ben, and Peter accepts yet another inevitability of life. The 90s marked the last real progression in Peter's stages of life. He'd gone from an angsty teenager who lived in his Aunt May's house and had no one to confide in, to a mature, married man who'd lost more than he deserved, but
So he lost more than he deserved.
Had loved ones to support him and be honest with. This was of course ruined by a number of decisions made by Marvel in the dying breath of the 90s. New writers step in. Aunt May is back. Turns out she didn't actually die and blames
So she didn't die?
her death on rap music?
What? So she didn't actually die, but she blamed herself onto rap music.
Fuck? Also, she doesn't know that Peter is Spider-Man because that wasn't her, that was some actress clone thing that the Green Goblin made. MJ goes on a plane and gets blown up, but it turns out she actually wasn't on the plane and she got kidnapped. Peter's like, okay, I don't care, and starts kissing this teenager. Okay, I'm doing this run a disservice by explaining it like this, but it more or less cements a trend in Spider-Man comics of 1. Shaking things up for no other reason than just trying to get an increase in sales, which never actually ends up working, and 2. Refusing to let Peter grow, or actively regressing his character in an attempt to make him more relatable? Peter saves MJ from the kidnapper, to which she uncharacteristically says that they need to go on a break, and the two of them separate. Not the brightest of times, but here's when J. Michael Straczynski comes in. At the start of the 21st century, Straczynski took over Amazing Spider-Man and was like, alright, time to fix this mess. First things first, get Peter and MJ back together. But don't just have them instantly come back. Make the most of their time apart, exploring why it is they need each other, and so that
they definitely need each other, because if they don't have each other, then
when they do reunite, it's satisfying and it's earned. This is Spider-Man in his absolute prime. Having become a teacher at his old school, Peter is able to express his passion for science while helping the same vulnerable kids that he used to be. His sense of responsibility is in full swing, going out of his way to help impoverished students and making a genuinely positive impact on the neighborhood. Not just by punching a villain in the face, but by being compassionate and just putting in the effort. Less spider, more man. His years of crime fighting are evident in the way that he tackles problems. He's still got that witty trickster's edge from Stan's original comics. He's still tremendously unlucky and suffers hard times, but there's always that glimmer of hope in there somewhere. Some people don't like what Straczynski did with the spider totem stuff, suggesting that Peter's powers came from a magical spider god.
I guess so.
I for one can't get enough of it, but it's important to note that he's more just posing a question rather than giving a concrete explanation. One of the best things that he did was completely revamp the character of Aunt May. In the past there were signs of her internal strength, which is something issue 400 understood, but a lot of the times it would be forgotten, and she'd be reduced to this weak old lady who would die from shock if she ever found out her nephew's secret. Straczynski understood that for someone to
why can't she not just tell her?
Taken a child that wasn't originally hers, raise him despite all of the other tragedies in her life, watch as the love of her life is gunned down in front of her, watch as her nephew suffers loss after loss, and feel like she can't talk to him about it, try to find comfort in someone new only to have them ripped away from her, to suffer through the loneliness of old age, and even then to still keep going. A life like that would require absolute unparalleled strength, and something like Peter being Spider-Man wouldn't change that. When May discovers Peter's secret by accident, she's realistically in shock, but after having time to process it, the two sit down and have a lengthy conversation about everything they've been through, all of the years they've lost to a lie, and how Aunt May just thought he was gay the whole time. This is also the
what?
First time that the great power, great responsibility line was attributed to Uncle Ben and was no longer stuck in that little text box. A bunch of cool stuff happens, some not so cool stuff happens, not his fault. Peter fights the Spider Queen, whose kiss gives him all sorts of new powers, such as organic webbing out of his wrist. Peter then dies and comes back to life. Don't worry about it. He also fights a villain called Paste Pot Pete, and upon hearing this ridiculous name, bursts out into so much laughter that he can no longer fight the villain. Things really start to change when, after a villain attacks their homes and leaves Peter, MJ, and Aunt May homeless, they're invited to live with the Avengers. They don't have to worry about money anymore. Peter becomes close to Iron Man and becomes his right-hand man. Aunt May's kind of got a thing going on with Jarvis. And then Speedball, old fucking Speedball, comes along and ruins everything. If you don't know, I'm talking about the massive Civil War event of 2006. It kicks off when a bunch of inexperienced superheroes attempt to stop a team of supervillains, but the whole thing goes sideways and ends up causing a devastating amount of civilian casualties. This leads the government to rethink how they should treat superheroes.
Yeah, definitely. This is amazing.
And Peter is left with a choice.
Genuinely amazing.
He can either give up his secret identity to the government and become their little errand boy, or he and his family can be hunted down and put in a hell prison. Iron Man is supportive of the government, and so, being his right-hand man, Peter goes along with him, an act that he would come to regret so very, very much. It's important to note that Peter doesn't just go along with Iron Man because, it's Iron Man. After what happened with Speedball, he genuinely does believe that superheroes need to be trusted, and that this is one step in the right direction. However, out of all the people who are on Iron Man's team, all the heroes who are publicly in support of the government, Peter's the only one with a secret identity. So, to practice what they preach, reach
Ooh.
and get the public on their side, they ask Peter to reveal his identity to the world. If you think
Don't
this
do
is
it.
stupid, Peter does too. But after being convinced by his loved ones that this is the right thing to do, and that this
It
would
is.
demonstrate responsibility for his actions, Peter accepts. And so, in a moment he's been dreading ever since he was a teenager, Spider-Man reveals his identity on
Alright.
live television.
Okay. Alright guys, I'm gonna stop here, but if you lot enjoyed the entire history of Spider-Man, make sure you lot subscribe, like, comment, and if you lot want an episode 3, I'm more than happy to do it. And guys, I'll see you later. Peace.